Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the monthly installment of the Resume Roast episode on office hours. We do this every the first Thursday of every month. So thank you for joining. My apologies in advance if my audio is crappy. I've run out of USB ports on my laptop, so I'm stuck with this guy as opposed to my cool Yeti uh, microphone. So in any case, my apologies in advance. I'm Kamara Toffolo. I'm a resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist who helps established professionals dare to do work differently and land great fitting gigs. So we are live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And if you have any questions as we are moving throughout our episode, which is jam packed, I have like 3 pages of notes of stuff to cover. Just type it in the chat on YouTube or in the comments on LinkedIn. And if you are feeling generous, I would appreciate a like on YouTube or an interaction on LinkedIn. So let's dive into this episode. This one is really dedicated to the parents out there. I became a mom for the first time this about a year ago, and so, especially with COVID, I'm really feeling for parents who have to juggle all the things right now. And I know it's really tough, and I feel your pain. So, today, what we're going to focus on for our resumes are resumes that have come from parents who have left the workforce to raise kids and who are ready to return to the workforce. So we're going to dive into 3 different resumes. They're all quite different and they're all pursuing very different jobs. So this is going to be quite interesting. But before we dive into the resumes, I want to cover off a few different things about dealing with your resume if you are a parent or if you left the workforce to care for any family at all. This will apply to you too. So let me just bring up a little slide that I have. And let's see if I can make this work. All right, let's give it a shot. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right, so a few things that I want to cover around dealing with extended leave to raise kids or care for family on your resume is that it's important work. So please don't feel any sort of regret or feel that people won't understand, because people will understand that you took time to do what was most important. And so just make sure that you're really gentle with yourself when it comes to any feelings that you have around taking that time. It was what you needed to do, and it's very important work. So don't don't lose sight of that, please. And to give you some peace of mind, I've worked with a lot of people who have left the workforce to raise their families and then returned many years later, 1 year, 2 year, all the way up to almost 20 years out of the workforce, and have successfully returned. So please don't stress about how it's going to be perceived on your resume. We need to just make sure that we're explaining it. Okay, don't feel pressured to make your time raising your kids or caring for family members relevant. So don't feel pressured to call yourself like the CEO of your family. That is just not necessary. You just need to be quite clear about what the work was, which was raising kids or caring for family, and that's it. You don't need to you don't need to give it some sort of title. Um, if you have had any time at all, yeah, right, when you're raising kids, right? If you've had any time at all to keep your skills fresh in any sort of way, like through courses or projects or volunteer work, you'll want to note these down on your resume as well, just so a future employer can see how you've been productively spending your time in addition to raising your family or caring for family. And finally, you must address the gap. So you must address the time that you left the workforce. Otherwise, it just will cause imaginations to run wild. And when we do that, we get into dangerous territory. So let's not do that. Let's make sure we're spelling it out for people. Okay, so that's what I wanted to mention around that. And I'm going to stop that share. And again, if you have any questions for me as we move along, please put them in the chat or put them in the comments on LinkedIn. Happy to answer them. And let's dive into our first resume. I'm really excited about this. Okay. All right. I've got a million resumes up, and sometimes StreamYard doesn't want to behave. Okay, maybe if I close a couple of them, let's see. Come on, StreamYard, let's see this resume, please. There we go. Okay, so while I am on the resume, you're not going to be able to see me. And I'm just going to confirm that you see the resume. Yes, it looks like you can. Okay, you're not going to be able to, or you will be able to see me. I won't be able to see your comments or questions, but we will get back to them. So let's get into this resume right now. This resume is from someone who is pursuing customer success and enablement roles and who has been out of the workforce for 4 years raising kids. So let's take a dive into this and see what we can improve with this resume. So when I go through this resume, it feels a touch clunky. The aesthetic is a little chunky maybe, and there's obviously an overuse of bullets. Okay, so yeah, when I look at that, I can see that it's a little hard to read. A reader might have a bit of difficulty with it. There's also thick lines as well that aren't necessarily formatted the same at every instance that they show up. So the thing with lines, we don't want to insert lines as a line. We can use the border feature instead. And it's much easier to keep consistent formatting throughout. So make sure you use the border when you're adding or taking away a line. Okay. So contact information, some of this is okay. There was a full mailing address, which we definitely don't need. Just your city and state is sufficient. Okay. And there was, for the phone number, there was a mobile marker beside it, just denoting that it's a mobile phone number. We don't need to denote that it's mobile or landline. You can just include the phone number. Just make sure that it's a phone number that you're actually going to answer. Okay, and the email I noticed wasn't hyperlinked. So we want to make sure that we do hyperlink our emails so that the reader can easily just click and go and send us an email. Okay, all right. So now as we go further down, one more thing around the contact information that I wanted to note. I noticed that there's no link to a LinkedIn profile. You're going to want to make sure that you link to a LinkedIn profile. You're going to want to hyperlink that as well. And I also recommend adding a title here for your resume. So the title would be the title to the job to which you're applying. So let's say customer success and enablement consultant or what have you. That just really primes the reader for how they should be reading and perceiving your resume. Okay, so when we get further down into the professional profile area, there's just a lot of bullets to wade through, so that's a bit challenging and hard on the reader. It's hard for them to get important information fast from this. So I would recommend actually instead using a small paragraph, maybe a few lines, that refers to the main solutions you create as a customer enablement and customer success and enablement consultant or professional, and kind of your performance track record that you're known for. So and then after that, what you can do is follow up with a couple highlights from your entire career. So your best 3 highlights from across your entire career would be my recommendation. And I noticed in this bullet that you're noting that you were part of top talent programs 2006, 7, 8, 9. So that would have been good back in, say, 2010. But now it looks like it calls into question, well, are you top talent still? So there's been 11, almost 12 years since that time. So someone might wonder, well, what's happened in the past 12 years in terms of being top talent or not top talent? So that might be a red flag to them. So let's not incriminate ourselves, so to speak. And I would recommend just taking that bullet right out. From a skills perspective, we do need actually a skills section. I'm not seeing a skills section here. The skills section will provide a quick snapshot of the skills that you actually have, so the reader knows that, oh yeah, you've got these, you're claiming these qualifications, and then they will continue reading on in your resume to see that you can back those up with accomplishments. With professional experience, now we're moving through to that quite quickly. So we need to address the gap. So this professional has been off of or out of the workforce for 4 years raising kids. So we do need to include, let's see if I can get rid of this line here. Oh boy. Okay. I think we're okay. So career notes is what I would call it, or you can just put a couple bullets, but you need to include the full date range that we're trying to cover here. Okay. And so the full date range, I guess, would be from August 2016 to present. And you could just include a bullet to the effect of raised family full time, and then a bullet about how ready you are to re-enter the workforce and step into a role as a customer success and enablement professional. Okay. All right. So carrying on, the formatting in general, I would recommend changing up. Oh, I should back up. One of the things that you just saw me do was formatting the dates. I have a video on my YouTube channel about how to format dates and make sure that your dates are flush with the right-hand margin. And so just take a look for that. I think I named it like how to perfectly format dates on your resume or something like that. So take a look on my channel for that. You're going to need it. In fact, I believe all the resumes tonight are going to need to refer to that video. Okay, so we've addressed the gap. Bullet about how ready you are to return to the workforce and into what role. All right, so let's take a look at the formatting of your professional experience. So here in the formatting of your professional experience, I would actually recommend that you swap the order here. So instead of having the company first, I would say senior education solutions consultant. And then I would put the date range against the margin here. So that would be June 2015 to July 2016. And then underneath that, I would put the company name and remote, that it was remote. Okay, and then what I would recommend doing, instead of having all bullets, you'll want to follow up with a small paragraph that discusses your responsibilities, your overall mandate, etc. So like a few lines. And then what you can do is focus the bullets on your actual accomplishments. So the most important stuff. Okay, let's talk about these accomplishments. Okay, so I have lots of notes. So I'm just looking at them right now. Okay, when I read your bullets, they're very responsibilities heavy right now. So we want to move that away from responsibilities more towards accomplishments. You're very much on the right track with this bullet here, where you talk about achieving 104% of your quota. So that's on the right track. and you need more of those. You need more information on the level of client with whom you worked. Were they like enterprise clients? What types of clients did you work with? If you can name drop clients, that's even better, but in most cases we can't. So just describe the level of clients with whom you worked. Bring in more numbers, not necessarily quota or sales numbers, but I'd like to see more numbers on the number of users that you onboarded or the size of a client account. Whatever your future employer would use as their metrics, you want to use here to showcase your qualifications. You mentioned a few times throughout about customizing solutions for clients. So, in what way? What did you do? Like how were they? How did you customize a solution? What particular business need did that meet for the client? Lots that you could unpack there. So, getting back to the format for each job, this is the format I recommend. So, title first, date range on the right hand side, company name underneath, and then location or that it was remote. Small paragraph that covers your responsibilities and duties, and then following up with a few select highlights from that work. Okay, so same feedback for this role. Where I started to get confused was here. So you mentioned that you started your own business. So the way it's described is kind of vague. What you need to do is add more specifics here, and you need to make those specifics make sense to your current direction. So if you are in customer success and enablement, if you are measured on quota, then what you need to do is think about or showcase ways that you did increase sales for clients and how you did it. So more information here. This is almost 2 full years, so it's important that you include some details. Okay. All right, just checking. You also have a career gap in between May 2011 and May 2013, so you will need to cover that off with an explanation, just a quick one-liner. You can check out the many videos I have on my channel about addressing career gaps. I have several because it's the most one of the most asked questions, and also very common. And so just check those videos out to see if it can give you some options for addressing that to your career gap. Okay, let's see here. As I scroll down and I get to your earlier roles, your bullets get better. So more of this, please. You are much more specific about your verticals here. You're much more specific about your margin and your revenue. You were much more specific about launching something really big of the first inside service sales team. There's like lots of good stuff going on here. More of this, please. And watch your fonts. There were 2 different fonts going on here, so just be careful about that. And still there's a little bit too much like responsible for throughout, so you'll just need to make sure that you use active verbs for your accomplishments. And that's pretty much it. And I pushed your resume further down a bit, but it was moving on to 3 pages. That could be the translation between our different versions of Microsoft Word, but you do want to make sure that your resume does comfortably fit on 2 pages or go for a full 3 pages. But I think in your case, 2 pages should suffice. Okay, so with that done, I'm gonna stop this share and head over to the chat to see if there are any questions. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm not getting any, which is surprising. Usually I would have had quite a few by now. Hopefully there isn't a glitch between the different technology platforms. I'm just going to go over to LinkedIn myself now and see if there's anything. I don't want to miss anything because this is quite a bit of information. Okay. Nope. Okay, good. We're covered. All right. Just a quiet bunch today. That's fine. Maybe I'm overloading you with information. In any case, feel free to get your questions into the chat and I will get to them. So no worries there. All right. So let's hop over to our next resume. Okay, finally the questions are coming through. There is a delay, so all right, let me pop up the questions here and address them. Siri Jordan, would you put the years that you were in university on your resume? If the time you were in university, if that fills a gap, a career gap, then yes, I would. If you were in university um, prior to starting your career, then no, you don't need to address those years. And for many people, especially as you become more experienced, you'll want to consider dropping off any graduation dates if you haven't already. We just try to avoid kind of feeding into people's bias. I know that's hard to hear, but people will, everybody has their bias about like, well, if they graduated in such and such a year, then they're too old for something. If they graduated in such and such a year, they're too young for something. We all do the malicious math. So just, yeah, drop your graduation dates. And then again, just to reiterate, if you are filling an employment gap with university, time in university, then go for it. Otherwise, there's no need to add like some extra about being in school. All right. Jennifer, do you need to put something in the resume for every little gap? I don't think every little gap. If it's a year, I would say yes. A year or more, I would say yes. As it's getting further back in time, like if it's like really early in your career, probably I would avoid, or I wouldn't bother with explaining the gap because it's so long ago and you already have you would already have a more recent track record for your employment and more recent active employment. So it really depends, but yeah, probably for the earlier stuff, the earlier career gaps, I would just leave them alone. Rebecca, how do you add more numbers to your later positions that you do not remember? You don't necessarily have to add numbers. If you can remember the outcome, that's good enough. Really trying to think about the positive outcome created by your work. And that is what you want to emphasize. And I have an article on JobScan about non-quantifiable accomplishments. I don't think that you absolutely have to quantify accomplishments in every single instance. So have a read of that, and that might help prompt you for how you could write accomplishments without having to feel pressured to quantify them. All right, so let's take a look at our next resume. Okay, just loading it up now. Please do feel free to get your questions into the chat or the comments on LinkedIn, and we will certainly get to them. And I guess I had just a major delay, so that would explain the silence. All right, so let's see here. Okay, just checking that you can see it. Yes, okay. So this professional is in the learning, education, higher ed advisory space, and is I think one year out of work since possibly since a restructuring, and then has been off homeschooling, which many parents are doing, right? Part-time teacher now and full-time parent, right? So all right, so let's take a look here. Okay, so in the contact information, this is fine. Phone was fine. Email wasn't hyperlinked, so again, you're going to want to hyperlink your links, including your email. I have a video on hyperlinking links in your resume, so make sure to check that out. It's on YouTube. LinkedIn wasn't hyperlinked and was also leading with the www. What I recommend when you are including your LinkedIn profile URL in your resume is to go to your profile and just copy and paste in the address as it appears when you're viewing your profile. That should help mitigate any possible issues with typing in the URL. And also, if you do the copy paste in and then just hit enter or return, it's going to automatically hyperlink. Okay, so let's see. Got to bring up my notes. Okay, so I like the font choice, but the aesthetic overall could be the translation between our versions of Word. There's some extra white space throughout. Moving on to a third page, again, could be things that are translation based in terms of Word to Word or Mac to PC. Could be a number of reasons, but I mean, we can save a bunch of white space by doing that. Okay, so lots of bullets. Again, similar to the last resume, maybe too many bullets. And we want to have a bit of variety of how we present the text. The small paragraph is really going to be helpful in terms of presenting the context of your role, and then the bullets can be used strategically and sparingly to highlight accomplishments. Okay, continue with the contact information. I'd like to see a title in here. So let's say education advisor, or whatever the role title is to which you're applying. Okay, so similar to the previous resume, lots of early bullets to wade through. My recommendation is a small paragraph at the beginning that refers to the main solutions you create. In your case, I would love to see some description about how your experience as a teacher really equips you to make a major difference as an education advisor. So kind of drawing those or kind of correlating your work experience and how your career has evolved, so that the reader can really picture in their mind how you can really make a difference in the role for which they're recruiting. Okay. Languages. So we really don't want to put our languages on our resume unless we can do work or business in those languages. So my fear is that we claim a language and then all of a sudden we might be interviewed in that language. Maybe that's a personal fear for myself, that I would be super scared if someone tried to interview me in French. But we don't need to include a language that we're not we don't have professional proficiency in. So I would just cut that completely. Okay, similar to the previous resume, we need a skills section here. Again, gives a quick snapshot of our qualifications, and then the reader will read on to our work experience and see how we are qualified and how we back up those skills with actual results. Okay, continuing on with our professional experience, we do need to address the gap since December 2019. So this professional is homeschooling, is supporting their kids with homeschooling. And so that really ties in nicely with the education advisor approach, right? Or the education advisor target. I don't think it could have worked out any better, to be honest. So we just need to make sure that we're putting dates in. So we're doing Jan 2020 to present. And we could say something about, and I made a video specifically on homeschooling, and so you can refer to that, but I honestly can't even remember what I said in it. But let's say we could say supporting kids or children with homeschooling due to COVID-19, school closures or what have you. If you feel like it, you could even mention your kids' ages or grade levels, whatever, and then a bullet about how you're ready to re-enter the workforce as an education advisor. Okay, so let's take a look at the work experience specifically. So when I'm reading this, so I like that you led with your title, so that's good. Dates need to be all the way on the right-hand margin, and that's for readability purposes for anyone who's wondering. And so, and again, we want to have that small paragraph here that gives context to the role and our duties and our overall mandate. And then we're going to use bullets to highlight our best accomplishments. I like where you're headed with the 160 student portfolio. I would recommend rewording this so that you're not starting with a responsible for. Maybe you could say something that you let's say, facilitated opportunities for 160 plus student portfolio or something like that, or facilitated co-op employment opportunities for 160 plus students, or what have you, however you want to word it. I'm not using the proper words, but we want to lead with an active verb or an action verb. The 500 plus meetings, I sense that maybe you felt pressured to quantify some more. It does. I don't think you have to quantify here necessarily, unless your target employer or target employers would certainly measure your performance on number of meetings that you have, and that more meetings means better performance. I have a feeling that's not the case, but if it is, then keep something like that. If it's not, find another way to, or another thing to highlight here. So one of the things that I would want to know more about is if your goal was to create positive outcomes between co-op student and employer, maybe use a couple bullets to highlight the top 2 outcomes that you had, like success stories, or maybe one where you turned around a potentially negative situation into a positive one for one of your students or co-op employers. That's what I would recommend doing. For the harassment advisor bullet, it would be good to say more about it. So what was the outcome of being the harassment advisor? I think this is good because it's more advising work, which is where you're headed. So just give the reader more information about the impact that you had as harassment advisor, or the outcome, or anything that results related that you can think of. Okay, let's carry on here. So there is a small, that's a month. I wouldn't worry about that then. Yeah, I wouldn't stress about that 1 month gap. Something funky going on with the text here. I don't know if I did something, but yeah, I don't know what happened here. Okay. And just a point about formatting our resumes, sometimes it's way easier just to start over with a blank page. And then you can do a cross compare on your screen. So have one document, like your old resume here, new resume there, like blank page, and then just kind of type everything out, like transpose it all. Sometimes that's just easier to part ways with formatting that you continually try to fix and it never works. Regarding formatting, so for skills sections, I have 2 videos, one on setting up skills columns and one on the easiest way to write your skills section, both on YouTube. And then for overall formatting and formatting tips and tricks for your resume, I have 2 1-hour trainings live like this on YouTube as well. Look for like pro resume formatting tips or something, like, I think that's how I named it. That will also give you a hand in formatting your resumes. Okay, so when I was reading these bullets, one thing I wasn't clear about was you employed instructional design and adult learning theory to determine the appropriate solution to a knowledge or performance gap. Okay, so I'd be curious to hear, like, what was the gap? Who had the gap? Was it teams or individuals? And how did you know there was a gap? Um, and in applying instructional design and adult learning theory, what was the result of doing that? Did you close the gap? Uh, and how was that the performance measured after the fact? So bringing more specificity here would really help. Okay, let's carry on to curriculum development and course writer. So the title isn't quite hitting my ear right. I would consider using what is more standard in the industry. It could be curriculum developer, could be curriculum designer, could be instructional designer, could be course creator. I don't really know, but curriculum development slash course writer just doesn't doesn't work for me. Something's missing, or it's, yeah, I'm not quite sure about it. Okay, so let's see here. So I noticed that you said something about e-learning courses. Okay, so were you transforming traditional curriculum to go on to online? And if that's the case, I would strongly recommend that you say that you did transform the curriculum, or that you something to that effect. You do say develop new learning material, so I would also say something about your implementation of the new learning material, and how you ensured the success of the learning experience for the students who are taking your course. All right, guidance. I'm not sure what happened here. Guidance counselor. Okay, so this is one of your longest jobs, but you've only got a couple bullets about it. So I would name some of the positive outcomes maybe that you had with students, in terms of their own careers or their own further or higher education, how you advise them. Again, advising being a strong theme of your resume. And when discussing the positive outcomes, by no means do you name anyone, but describe for the reader what you did and how you got someone to a goal of theirs. Okay, teacher. Okay, I didn't take a note on this for some reason. This internship, I'm not sure if I would include it necessarily. I might trim it down to just make it a one line. I'm trying to see how it fits. So yeah, I'm just not sure, and I would wonder, like, why an internship at that point. Maybe that was your master's internship, in which case maybe instead you could put a couple bullets under your master's when we get to the education section. Okay, so teacher. So we can measure a little bit more here. It'd be great to hear about number of classes you taught a week. What were the grade levels? You have a good bullet in here, and you used ninefold increase in graduation rates. Ninefold doesn't have the same impact as saying 9x, like 9 times, or 900%. So I would recommend switching up that number for something that will be easily identifiable as having huge impact. I mean, 900% or 9x is very, very good. So that's a really strong bullet. And also, to make bullets much stronger, you want to bring the result to the head of the bullet, and then you follow it up with how you got there. Okay. I think you mentioned underneath here somewhere that you trained or facilitated professional development for teachers. What was the outcome of that? And the art school programs that you mentioned here. You did mention that you were creating a safe space in the community and place of belonging, which is lovely. I would love to know what the actual measurable impact was of that. Did you see a marked difference in, say, behavior or grade level, like grade levels, is that the right word, in terms of performance? Performance in school? Yeah, would love to know more about that. And yeah, everything else is fine for the most part except formatting. I took this out, but you had acronym member. The acronym, I didn't know what it was. When it comes to acronyms, we really want to spell it out with the first instance that we use it in our resume, and then you can follow it up with, and then put the acronym in brackets, and then you can use that acronym going forward in your resume. Okay, so yeah, you should be able to fit on 2 pages, no problem, when you make your edits. So let me close this one, and I will hop over to the chat. And then we will take a look at our last resume. Let's see here. Madeline, in the returning to work section, how do I handle care work that is relevant to the industry of my career but not the same path as my career? For example, a local hospital targeted my family to train medical students in the care of patients in hospice, but my career while in senior care is involved with strategic planning. Okay, so I would position that as an empathy thing. If you were caring for or involved in or facilitated the care of seniors, and you work in senior care, even though you're not delivering the care directly, you have walked the path that many of your potential customers or potential patients or clients have, or the families, I should say, of your potential residents or clients. So that equips you with an empathy and understanding that a lot of people in your position would not have. So I would say that it really gives you a unique insight into the experience of residents. Let's say if it's a seniors home, residents or patients or clients and their families. Okay, that would be my recommendation. All right, so let's hop over to the last resume. Okay. All right. Okay. So this resume is looking pretty good at first glance. I like the style approach. I like the pops of color and not overly using color, which is nice. Sometimes we can go overboard. But there are some fundamental problems with this. Okay, so problem number 1 is the first letter of the name, I believe, is in a text box. So I really don't like to cause any concern when it comes to the ATS, because I think the applicant tracking system or the ATS, because I think there's too much of it out there and too much fear mongering out there. But the one thing that I definitely want to warn people about is using text boxes, because it's my understanding that text boxes cannot be read by an applicant tracking system. So it would show up as blank. So it would be a person without their first initial in this case. So let's just not use text boxes and just instead use the just use the body of the document. I know that it will not have the same design look, but I don't think you're losing a lot by taking that away. So, all right. So contact information was fine. The email wasn't hyperlinked, and the LinkedIn URL was not hyperlinked, and was also using the www like the previous one. So again, just copy and paste your URL directly from your LinkedIn profile. When you're on it, go to the address bar at the top, grab it, put it into your resume, hit enter, hit space. It should automatically hyperlink it. Email, again, hit enter or space. It should automatically hyperlink it. Again, you can check out my video on hyperlinking on YouTube. Okay, so let's dig into this a bit more. Okay, so we don't have to have formatting like this. It's okay, but we don't have to. You could just center it up and that would be fine. But I'm not like, I'm okay with this formatting. It's fine as it is, aside from that text box. But I noticed there's like two titles going on here. So associate project accounting and accounting and operations professional. They're not really jiving. And also, where does operations come in? For this professional, they want to be a senior financial analyst, an accountant, or a manager of financial planning and analysis. So I'm not 100% on the operations. What I would say here, if you want to include like a couple of your specialties, certainly you can do that, but I would list it like right underneath your title. So let's say it was associate project accounting that you were applying to, and then you wanted to list your specialties: accounting, FP&A, and I'll put operations, but again, I don't know how that fits. Okay, and then you would delete that one. But it's your call on how you want to format that, but I wouldn't use two separate titles because the reader's going to get confused. All right, so let's look at this further. Professional experience. Okay, so this opening paragraph is pretty good. I would recommend shifting the sentence a bit so that it's rather than talking about the balance of your balance of skills, that you talk about how you leverage that balance of skills to create a certain type of results or a certain type of solution for your target company, or your target type of company. So so they can really imagine you doing the work at their company. So that I would shift that opening sentence a bit so it's clear what results you create. Okay. And yes, so you have an areas of expertise or a skills section, which is great. The formatting is fine. Very happy about that. Okay, let's get into your experience. Okay, so this is a really solid career note. Like, I would not change anything about this, except I would not call it a sabbatical, because sabbatical is often associated with like having tenure and then taking a religious sabbatical or a research sabbatical, so, something like that. So I would just say career note. No need to call it anything more than that, really. I'm getting picky here. I'm getting really picky here because there's a lot of good stuff going on in this resume. We don't want to use a bunch of tabs to tab over our dates. You want to use the, so let me just walk you through it. I'll undo that and I'll show you what I did. So in the top left-hand corner, there's like a backwards L, or I'm sorry, it's like an L, and then you just click in this white box around it until it becomes a backwards L. Then you've activated it basically, and then you click on the ruler at the top and drag it over to the right hand margin, right flush with it, so that with the date all I have to do is tab once and it's flush with the margin. Okay. Again, I have a video on how to do that. I was told in the video that there are a couple issues with it, possibly where you might need to drag things around. Anyway, play around with it. It should work out for you. Okay, back to professional experience. Okay, so I like the general approach for having one employer for a long period of time and how you broke out each of your roles. So that was good. With the opening paragraph, I want more about you, more about how you grew progressively during your tenure, less and well, you can talk about the company itself and give context to the company, but I want to read more about how you're and why you were promoted 5 times during your tenure. Okay, we want to watch the acronyms here. It might not be quickly, FP&A is pretty standard, but I mean, you kind of spelled out an acronym here, which is good, but depending on who's reading your resume, they might not know what a certain acronym is. So I would spell out the first instance of it with the acronym in brackets, and then you can use the acronym freely throughout the rest of your document. Okay, so going back to the possible target of being a manager of FP&A, we'd want to know more about your leadership. So I'm seeing a lot of good, strong, quantifiable accomplishments. I want more about people. So especially as project leader, I presume that you were leading a cross-functional team there. So more about that, more about leading a team or leading people. And with the project leader, give more context to what the project actually was. I'm not quite clear on what it was. So make sure the reader is clear on that. Okay, text box again. So we want to take that out. All right, and then continuing on, I didn't really have anything else to say about your earlier roles except for when we land here. So, since it's getting quite a ways back, I would probably instead opt for an early career highlights section instead, with maybe like a few, like 3 to 5 select bullets from your early accounting career that are your best accomplishments from your early career. And I sense that you had a job before accounting manager, because I don't think you would have stepped right into an accounting manager role. So maybe give some context to how you started in your career and how you quickly rose through the ranks. Yeah, I think that would be great in an early career section. Then you can get rid of the dates. Okay, and in that early career section, you can mention who the employer was or employers were. And again, your best accomplishments from that early part of your career. When I get to the education section, I actually get confused. So I'm not 100% on what credentials you actually do have. So I think you have a bachelor's, but I'm not 100%. So if you do, what I would do is say Bachelor of Business, Administration in accounting. And then underneath that, I would put the school, St. Clair College of Applied Arts and Technology. And then, I can't remember the city, but city, and then Ontario. And then for each of your credentials that you completed, this is what I would do as well. So let's say the HR management certificate. So human, because I assume these were all earned at the same same college. So human resources, what was it? Management certificate. And same school. Or if you want to save some room, you can do it like this instead and put the school underneath. But you do need to note the credentials that you actually received rather than just putting them in bullets. That's getting kind of confusing. Okay, so other than that though, your resume is in pretty good shape. So I'm quite pleased. And also, as an accounting professional, do you have an accounting designation? Do you have a CPA? Do you have anything else? So if you do, I would note it in your education section. Maybe you could expand it to education and certifications or something like that. And that would be helpful. Okay, so some great resume examples tonight. All right. So that was those were some, yeah, awesome examples and great learning for all of us tonight. If you have any questions for me, I've got 5 minutes now, so please do note them in the chat on YouTube or in the comments on LinkedIn. That would be fantastic. I will get to your questions. And if you felt this was helpful, please give it a like on YouTube or give it an interaction or reaction or whatever LinkedIn calls it on LinkedIn. That would be fantastic as well. And yeah, just in summary, when it comes to taking time away from the workforce to raise a family or care for family, we really want to make sure that we are letting the reader know about that in our resume, but we don't need to say a ton about it. So we need to strike the balance between being straightforward about it, but also honoring our own privacy, our own personal experience. If you want to share more, go for it. Like with the last resume that we looked at, there was quite a bit of detail about the personal experience that that professional had. And I love that. And also, I think any reader would love that too, because they read how the professional's child was born very early and now is thriving. So that, you know, that's a pretty feel good story, I have to say. And so I think that that really would connect well with any reader. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing at that level is up to you. If you want to keep it short and brief without very many details, that's fine too. Just make sure it's clear to the reader that you've been raising kids, and don't try and make it something like, don't try and get creative with it. There's no need for that. Everybody knows how busy you would be raising a family, so just let them know that that's what you were doing. In, again, a career note is where you want to write that. So if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat. There is a bit of a delay, so hopefully they do come in and I don't miss any, because I missed some last week. But I really do hope this was helpful for you guys. And I do have, as I said, several videos on my YouTube channel about addressing career gaps, COVID-related career gaps, talking about homeschooling on your resume. I did like a live training all about career gaps. I think I covered 11 different scenarios in that video. One of my earliest videos is on addressing career gaps. So it's a reality of being in the workforce that you might have a career gap. So don't overly stress about career gaps. Anything can be addressed on a resume, and you know, hopefully you'll find those videos helpful if you want to take a look at them. So I'm just gonna, it's a very quiet bunch tonight, so I'm just gonna double check that I'm not missing anything, that it's not a tech hiccup. And if you guys are free tomorrow at noon, I will be on LinkedIn News with Andrew Seaman for his hashtag Get Hired show. It's my second appearance on that show. So if you have some more questions, maybe something comes to you in the middle of the night, write it down and join us tomorrow. Join us tomorrow. That'll be at noon Eastern, Friday noon Eastern, and hopefully we can answer your questions. But you know, office hours happens every Thursday, and I have a great guest lined up for next Thursday, and resume reviews will be happening again on the first Thursday of March next. And yes, sir. They are. This is always loaded on YouTube. Yes. So YouTube does take a bit of time for processing, but if you check the post that this is broadcasting off of on LinkedIn, the first comment I included the link to the YouTube channel, or the link to the YouTube video. So have a look for that. And you can grab the replay at any time. But it may be a little, it may have a bit of buffering until YouTube's done their processing. Thank you very much for asking that. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, that's that. I hope that was helpful for everyone. I hope that was helpful for the volunteers who volunteered the resumes, and thank you for volunteering your resumes. Greatly appreciated. Great learning experience, I think, for everybody on the broadcast tonight, on the stream tonight. And I hope that it's going to be helpful for you as you continue moving along in your own job searches and with optimizing your resumes. So not seeing any more questions, I will let you guys go. We will see you next Thursday, or see you tomorrow, Friday at noon on Get Hired on LinkedIn News. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining.